Good evening. We welcome you to Mayor LaToya Cantrell's State of the City Address. Thank you for joining us from historic Gallier Hall during these historic and unprecedented times. I'm Julius Feltus, Senior Advisor to the Mayor of the City of New Orleans, and I'm honored to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. Our program will proceed in this order. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a short video presentation, and then the next voice you will hear will be our Mayor, the Honorable Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for loving our city unconditionally through the years. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you regarding the state of our city. I'm speaking to you today from Gallier Hall for a reason. This building was the seat of our city's government for over a century. And I stand here filled with the spirit of the mayors that have come before me. 2.5 years ago, even 8 months ago, I don't think any of us could have imagined the state of the nation and the state of the world we find ourselves in right now. I am so grateful for the support that you have shown me, that you have shown our city. The countless emails from all around the city and all around the state, the cards, the flowers, and most importantly, your prayers. We have some prayer warriors in the city of New Orleans, and I thank you because it matters. As I committed to you when I became mayor, we are moving forward together. No other way. Since my inauguration as your mayor on May 7th, 2018, we have faced many unprecedented challenges together. Flood events, the Hard Rock collapse, the cyber attack, tragedies in the middle of our Mardi Gras celebrations, and now a global pandemic that has taken the lives of 569 members of our community. We are no strangers in our city to trauma or to disruption. You know better than me. And after all, next week will mark the 15th anniversary since Hurricane Katrina. Thank everyone who hasn't stopped for 15 years ensuring that this city is coming back. And we will continue to do just that. And yes, we are in the peak of hurricane season right now, and we're prepared. We are all well versed in the unwavering focus, the hope, and the strength that it takes to rebuild from what can seem like disaster. We know that. I'm here to deliver a message of hope and point the way forward to our future beyond this pandemic. The present moment can feel and seem a unique and unimaginable challenge, even unbelievable. But within the history, over 300 years in this city, in our city, it is not without precedent. Let me remind you, in 1853, New Orleans was in the throes of a yellow fever pandemic. That year alone, 8,000 New Orleanians died. Our city endured and fought through waves of death against a disease that few understood and that many did not survive. Men and women of every race were forced to expose themselves to the risk of infection just to make a living. For a long time, a myth persisted that Black people could not be infected, and thousands died. Marginalized workers were put at an even greater risk, made expendable to maintain the lifestyle and convenience of those who were less vulnerable to the disease. Now today, many of our residents feel they are living that same history. The parallels are startling, but they can also be an inspiration. I am joined daily on the front lines of this fight by our public safety team, the New Orleans Police Department, the New Orleans Fire Department, the New Orleans EMS, Homeland Security, our Office of the Communications District, by countless medical health professionals, and yes, by the New Orleans Health Department. Dr. Jennifer Avegno, who leads the health department today, has been an invaluable partner and leader, as have all of my public safety chiefs. I'm grateful for this team, their expertise, their empathy, and their efforts to make sure that our people are safe. Our health department, the only parish-level health department in the state of Louisiana, was actually formed to combat that yellow fever. But the men and women of that department have made it among the most respected, most prepared public agencies in the nation. Absolutely. Our entire public safety team has been responding to this challenge while being hit themselves. One example is EMS alone had 58% of their manpower affected by COVID during this crisis. Yet, never stopped the work, never. All of the institutions we built to combat this pandemic in our history, Ochsner, Touro, the New Orleans Health Department, the New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board, the New Orleans Sewage and Water Board, have worked to preserve our lives during this pandemic. This crisis is the defining challenge of the moment. On top of the threat it represents to our health, this pandemic has had a dramatic impact on our economy and even on our civic culture. Social distance is contrary to who we are as a people, and the need to limit social gatherings has transformed our lives. The way we love on one another and how we show our support and how we participate in our culture, it's all been disrupted. Each life lost ripples through our community. And at a time when we can't even turn to our traditions and our rituals that we have depended on for generations, how we celebrate life and death in our city is different than anywhere else in the nation. But families have been able, and really our families have been unable to be with their loved ones as they face the end, having to pick and choose who can attend a family's funeral The impact the crisis is having on individual families, it's stark. With the expiration of unemployment insurance benefits and the resumption of foreclosures in the courts, people are struggling to make ends meet. We've seen our eviction rates triple since last year. We have seen an increase in 911 calls from residents overwhelmed by new levels of mental trauma. And please understand that our children are living in these homes and are in no way shielded from this trauma. My administration has fought hard to help and will continue. We have implemented a rental assistance program, created an emergency housing program for our homeless and our most vulnerable, and have provided legal assistance to residents facing evictions. This also includes my mayor's fund, which provides diapers and formula to our families, computers, technology. It assists members of our immigrant community unable to receive aid from the government. But the scale of our needs far exceeds the resources available on the local level. I need you to understand that. While I am not legally empowered to halt evictions, I am doing everything I can to fight for immediate intervention on the federal level to get our people the support they desperately need, working tirelessly with our governor, our congressional delegation, absolutely our state, our local delegation, and of course, my colleagues at New Orleans City Council. I recognize the challenges facing our renters. The time of this pandemic, it's not a time for our people to lay awake at night wondering how they're going to make next month's rent. It is also not the time for landlords to face missing mortgage payments or losing investments they have spent a lifetime to build. We must address this crisis with every tool at our disposal. And that means, first and foremost, getting our people fed. I think of the hard work that was done in these early weeks, I'm telling you, of this pandemic, led by Homeland Security, the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families, the New Orleans Public Schools, the New Orleans Recreation Department, and many of our nonprofit partners to feed almost 1.5 million meals. You all did that. Obtaining food became just one less worry, and it matters. In June, the city initiated the largest federally funded mass feeding program in the nation for residents facing food insecurity. We have served over 10,000 residents 3 meals a day, and we are grateful for the support from over 70 local restaurants participating. Families are being fed, and our local restaurants and our hospitality businesses are paid to feed them. In the midst of all of these challenges, I have hope. Our businesses are leading the way, innovating new ways to work and to get things done, implementing contact tracing and no contact services, spreading seating onto the sidewalks, and turning to new technologies to keep moving forward. Our faith-based community, they've also found new ways to connect their members, our people, again, bringing again that spirit of hope that we depend on. We've seen innovation from our artists and our cultural bearers, those creators on the ground. I think about the So Dat Mask program, Shamar Allen's Quarantine and Chill, and D1's Corona Clap, only in New Orleans. We face these challenges together. We've seen that the public health guidelines we put in place work. We bent the curve, we stopped the spread, and we will keep it going. The results are undeniable. We have led the nation in our response in COVID testing and have been deliberate about making mobile testing sites available to communities we know were hit the hardest in our city. The data shows that we saved lives. At the beginning of this pandemic, national models were predicting that more than 1,500 fatalities by midsummer in our city. Thousands of lives were saved because we shared the sacrifice. We wore our masks. We embraced social distancing. And our residents, our churches, our businesses took responsibility for one another and for health in our community. And again, you heard me say, demonstrating civic trust, trusting even in government. What we have done has not been without pain, especially for our essential workers, our cultural bearers, our small businesses, and their employees. They have suffered hardships, lost income, and business profits. There's no doubt about it. Shared sacrifice right now means that everyone must submit to some level of change. And New Orleans is stepping up to do what's needed. And I thank you for that. One of the most critical steps we can take to protect our economy from further disruption is to ensure that our students attend school in person, every child. I have worked closely with our health department leadership and with our school leaders to ensure that a data-driven plan for reopening schools is definitely going to be safe, and through Homeland Security, we're making sure that our schools are receiving the proper PPE equipment, whatever they need, we're right there. Shared sacrifice, doing what it takes. The city itself is facing a significant impact. Without immediate aid at that federal level, we face a budget shortfall of over $130 million for this year alone. That's an economic reality we must face, and it's one that's likely to have a direct impact on our city employees. But make no mistake about it, no mistake, we're gonna look after our people, our employees. We're gonna look after you. And we're gonna make sure that this city continues to receive the basic city services that all of our people deserve. No one is gonna be left behind. New Orleans was disproportionately impacted by this pandemic on the front end, and suffered once again when our CARES Act funding was diverted and diluted at the state level. Throughout this crisis, my CAO, Gilbert Montano, and my entire leadership team have worked to keep our people working and to keep government moving. We've streamlined our operations to avoid disruption, but the challenges ahead continue to be sobering. For the city employees who have been showing up every single day on the front lines, I see you, and I am so grateful for you. It's hard when you're in the middle of the struggle to look around and feel like everyone maybe isn't pulling their weight the same, like you're alone even. You're not. I'm with you. And I will continue to stand with you and fight for you every step of the way. The work never stopped, and neither have you, and I am proud of you. For our employees who have been less visible, those who have been forced to adapt to the challenges of quarantine and remote work, who innovate, they do every single day. to find new ways to deliver for the residents who depend on us. I see you too. Even though you haven't been at your desk, you haven't stopped work. And let me tell you, you're actually doubling down, getting a little bit more done. To those employees with children at home, I stand in awe of how you, like so many of our residents, have navigated the challenge of suddenly becoming full-time teachers in addition to being full-time public servants. To all of our city employees, I want you to take pride in what you have done and what you do for our city every day. At no other time in our city's history can our city workers make a more positive impact than right now. You have the honor of serving. Be proud to work for this city. I am. We will continue to make critical investments that shape our future. Our 2020 bond initiative will function as a local stimulus. I've worked closely with our city council to ensure that we issue a large enough bond package to rebuild infrastructure and infuse funding into our economy all at the same time. Our 2020 bonds, totaling more than $280 million, are a part of the $500 million that you overwhelmingly approved with your vote last November. I thank you for that, because those bonds will allow us to use existing millage rates to repair our streets and our drainage lines, build green infrastructure, and also develop affordable housing. And I know all of those things are very important to you and to our future. These investments are on top of the more than $1 billion in FEMA-funded infrastructure work that my administration has put to work since my inauguration. And I have to thank FEMA for standing with us to get these long-delayed projects rolling. They didn't waver. The decisions my administration made in the years before COVID are paying off right now. The cyber attack last year prepared our teams to transition to remote work nearly seamlessly. Our procurement team rapidly transitioned to online bidding, you know, that bidding process, and since the outbreak has issued more than $300 million in infrastructure contracts alone. And I have to give my deputy CAO, Ramsey Green, a big shout out for that. The city's improved credit rating, which again my team achieved last year, put us into a stronger financial position before this pandemic hit. Our financial team uncovered millions that sat unspent for decades. A couple of weeks ago, we called together the Board of Trusts. It's a body that had not met in 3 decades, and we released over $1 million in funds, some which had not been touched in almost a century. We cannot lose sight of the challenges we faced before the pandemic. When the first COVID cases emerged in March, our city was already under 2 emergency declarations, and even now we continue the work of recovering from the tragedy of Hard Rock. Just this week, we finally achieved some degree of closure with the recovery of our people's remains. It was a terrible relief, and my administration will continue to hold the building's ownership accountable and stand with our families to seek justice, the justice that they deserve, and our community deserves as well. It's all because the work doesn't stop. In the face of multiple unexpected challenges we've had in over the past 2 years, it is easy to overlook the tremendous progress that we've made. because there's been progress. Our Office of Youth and Families is working to improve outcomes for our children. This year, we became the 3rd city in the country to create a fiscal map. It provides an analysis of public investments in our youth. In 2020 alone, those investments total $40 million, with a per capita investment of $361 per youth for ages 0 to 24 in our community. We're way ahead of the curve compared to other cities our size, and we're going to get even stronger. But by contrast, it costs our city about $77,000 per person per year to incarcerate people at the Orleans Justice Center. That's why we're investing in our people, funding alternatives to incarceration, and offering critical social services that can prevent people from becoming involved with the system to begin with. And to that end, the city has doubled down on our investment in early childhood education, from $1.5 million to $3 million. We've led a wholesale transformation of our juvenile justice system with the reimagined Juvenile Justice Intervention Center. Let me remind you, when I took office and visited this site, I found 70% of the children there not going to class, sitting alone in dark cells. No more, not in our city. We are investing in our young people, changing their outcomes and their lives, and we will continue to do so in our future. It's there. The way is in our front. We've engaged our youth voices through our Youth Advisory Council and the Junior Civic Leadership Academy program. Once again, we invested in our young people, and they invested right back in us, giving up their Saturday mornings for months to engage with city government. And just last week, we stood with the 4 winners of our mask-wearing poster contest. It's a mask-wearing poster contest. Deja Alford, Izzy Harrell, Rayanne Collar, and Mauro Nunez. These young people are using their voices, their creativity to promote public safety messages, and I could not be more proud. And I know that the entire New Orleans City Council stands with me on that. We work together to pull that off. We've expanded the way that we communicate to our residents, working to meet them where they are and to bridge that digital gap, with support from key social media influencers and the embrace of our new applications like direct texting, and we're using new ways to deliver important information and engage directly on these platforms with residents, and it's paying off. We're communicating and I'm responding. Our Neighborhood Engagement Office continues to deliver on their mission to expand participation in government. They've trained community leaders, I'm telling you, to become neighborhood navigators, connecting residents with resources and helping them access critical services during this pandemic. They've also worked to drive up participation in the 2020 census. And remember, that deadline, it was moved up by the federal government, so the time to be counted is right now. The census count will determine how $1.5 trillion in federal spending is distributed, and we need our fair share. We will have to live with our census count for the next 10 years, so let's get it right. We can do that. We continue to steer our city toward a more financially stable future. And I want to give a little shout out to my CFO, Norman White, because fighting for our fair share didn't stop when COVID hit. That meant securing an agreement for Champion Square, bringing in $2.3 million to our city. It meant fighting for franchise fees, bringing in another $6 million. This money was left on the table for years. And our city attorney, Ms. Sunny LaBeouf, led the way in that fight. We're working to get every dollar and put an end to a culture where our city and our people get anything less than what they deserve. You are worth more, and so is the future we are building together. When I look ahead at the future, I am filled with hope. I am filled with hope when I see how our city responded to the wave of peaceful protests that swept our country this summer. Racial injustice and inequality are a legitimate concern for the people of our city, and they should be. We have a moral obligation to ensure that Black lives matter. When it comes to equal opportunity and to economic and social mobility, we have an obligation. That obligation is also to uplift our people and to make Black lives matter in our neighborhoods, to embrace behaviors and policies that keep our families safe and out of the system. Years before activists were calling for 8 Can't Wait reforms, our police department led the way with a commitment to constitutional policing, and the results speak volumes. While many cities encountered turmoil and dysfunction during the protests this summer, our police department, we had no walkouts, and we came through with minimal conflict and maximum transparency. We're going to keep it going. At a time when crime is rising across the country, we are continuing to grow our department and build relationships in our community that will keep our people safe. It fills me truly with hope that even as we confront the impacts from COVID, our Workforce Development Office, Job One, is leading the way by redefining how government connects with people and connects our people to workforce training and job opportunities so that they can pivot to new growth sectors and reach their fullest potential in our city. And I just have to let you know that our Job One office is delivering the best results of any similar program in the state of Louisiana. Through our Cleanup NOLA, we're getting properties that have languished since Katrina back into commerce. We're making progress. We're demonstrating that as we demolish properties, blighted properties, overgrown vacant lots, adding affordable housing, we're getting it done today and well into the future. We are not going to stop, because this allows our people a chance to keep and build generational wealth. And it's how we use and how we look at our assets and build and play to our strengths. Our Office of Community and Economic Development have secured over $18.5 million in new funding for this work this year. I am proud that our administration took action at the outset of this crisis to help our most vulnerable population, getting our people off the street and keeping them off the street. That is our commitment. As we navigate the new realities, our people continue to bring me hope. During this crisis, people have seized the opportunity to reconnect with their families and find that silver lining, using time, to address delayed maintenance on their homes and on their businesses, and also focusing inward on that personal faith. Our people are finding new ways to survive in this moment and to thrive going into our future. The story of New Orleans is the story of reinvention and of opportunity, of uplifting and embracing the triumph and tragedy that have shaped who we are today, seizing every opportunity to create and to inspire what we can become next. because what happens next is going to be something both familiar yet altogether new for our people and for our city. What happens next is rebirth. At a time, let me tell you, this is it. It's our time and an obligation to reshape for the better every aspect of our lives. How we live, how we work, how we teach our children, how we keep our community safe. It's what we do in this city. We recover, we rebuild, and we redefine what it means to be New Orleans. You've heard me say over and over again throughout this crisis that what happens next depends on what we do right now. Right now, we're in the fight. We're gonna keep going. Right now, we're called upon to work harder and to work smarter, because what we do right now will define New Orleans for the next 300 years. We're moving forward in that future, and we're moving forward together. May God bless you, and may God bless the city of New Orleans. The way is in our front, and our future is bright.